Tonight, 2 security operatives killed as bandits raid another private secondary school in Kaduna State, kidnap unconfirmed number of students as over 20 others are rescued. Governors of southern states demand zoning of presidency in 2023 to the south, set September as deadline for member states to enact anti-open grazing laws. Civil society organizations kick against alleged manipulation of sections providing for electronic transmission of results of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill by the National Assembly. And over 1,000 Afghan soldiers flee to neighboring Tajikistan following a clash with Taliban and militants. Plus business, sports, news from Abuja, and later international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, oil prices surge as OPEC Plus fails to reach agreement on production output for a second time.
On sports news tonight, Novak Djokovic reaches his 50th Grand Slam quarterfinal with a straight sets victory over Chile's Christian Garin at Wimbledon.
And from the nation's capital, the United Nations Children's Fund seeks support of northern traditional leaders to combat COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy.
There's been another kidnapping saga in Kaduna State. This time, a private school in Chikun local government area where some students were kidnapped this morning. The bandits invaded Bethel Baptist Secondary School, Maraban Rido, shooting sporadically before taking the students away, but 4 of them escaped. Meanwhile, the joint security operatives who responded to the attack say they were able to rescue another 26.
News of an early morning abduction of students from Bethel Baptist School in Kaduna brings anxious parents and other relatives rushing down to the premises of the boarding school located along Kaduna-Kachia Road, Chikun local government area of the state.
What will I tell her? What will I tell her? Jesus.
Attacks on schools are now becoming common in Kaduna State, with many families sleeping less at night, worried about the next target.
God, is this at me? No. I didn't expect it. God, I have to tell you, I am not pleased. Father, in Jesus' name, oh God,
now they raise their voices in prayers, individually and collectively, seeking divine intervention for the safe return of their children.
It's only the students that were taken away. None of the staff is among them. So for me to meet the house master, who's in charge of them here, he too was able to escape with his own family. He managed to send his wife there on the other wall there and cross to call for rescue. And that thing happened, as you were saying, is about 15 minutes after 1. That was then. And the whole operation starts in 15 minutes time to its own due, not knowing that they have placed all over.
According to eyewitness reports, the attackers stormed the school early Monday morning and began shooting to cause panic before abducting the students. 4 were lucky to escape, but it's not clear how many were taken away.
Here people, they drag, they do. I just wake up, I say who I thought that my student won't see me. So as they say, hey, open that door, if not I will shoot you. Then I tell them, say, me I know where, the hand know where. So I say I cannot open the door, so he forced the door and pushed the door open. He said, bring all your assets and money. We say, see the money when we have. We go open our box, remove the money when they pay us the day before yesterday. Then we give them. They say, okay, nothing, no any money again. I say, no, we are 2. So they say, to let's go. I say, oh God, see my leg, I know where. Wait, come on, let's go. So I begin to follow them. As we reach there, they said I should come back. Then they carry my second go.
Joint security operatives not far from the school responded to the attack and rescued over 20 children. Unfortunately, 2 of the officers lost their lives in the process.
The update now is about 28 students have been found, and unspecified number of students are still missing. Efforts are being made as we speak towards ensuring that we get all the students that are missing.
The attack comes the day after bandits also abducted several people, including infants, from the residential quarters of the National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Center in Zaria, Kaduna State, on Sunday.
As heartbreaking as that sounds, the Kaduna State government has ordered the immediate closure of 13 schools located in areas that have been identified as vulnerable to attacks by bandits. This follows the attack on Bethel Baptist School in Kaduna State today. The Director General of Quality Assurance Authority in the State Ministry of Education, Umar Ahmed, says the closure is with immediate effect. The statement also warns of sanctions against schools that fail to comply. In other news, governors of the southern states are demanding that the next president of Nigeria should come from the southern part of the country, as formed part of the communique read at the end of their meeting today in Lagos, where they also set September 21st as deadline for the promulgation of anti-open grazing law by member states. Other details of the communique, read by the chairman of the Southern Governors Forum and Governor of Ondo State, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, include the rejection of 3% equity shares for oil-producing communities, opting for 5% instead, national unity based on fairness, equity and justice, call for state policing, rejection of selective prosecution, rejection of proposed ownership structure of NNPC, among others. Channels Television's political correspondent, Seun Okimaloye, reports.
A musical welcome to Lagos. Governors of the southern region, one after the other, they arrive at the Lagos House, and host Babajide Sanwo-Olu welcomes them into the meeting room, a second leg of their meeting about 2 months ago in Asaba, Delta State.
All governors, except two, are not yet here.
After about 3 hours of deliberation, they emerged from their meeting and the chair of the forum reads out the communique. The stands on security and open grazing are clear.
The forum emphasized the need for state police. The forum resolved that if for any reason security institutions need to undertake an operation in any state, the state chief security officer must be duly informed. The forum set a timeline of Wednesday, the 1st of September 2021 for the promulgation of the anti-grazing law in all its member states.
The governors are obviously not happy with the portions of the petroleum industry bill. They were unequivocal about their rejections of the areas they frown at.
The forum, however, rejects in very strong terms the proposed 3% for host community and supports 5% share of the oil revenue to the host communities as recommended by the House of Representatives.
And on the zoning of the presidency come 2023, the southern governors want fairness and equity.
That the next president of Nigeria should emerge from the south.
The governors also rejected the planned removal of electronic transmission of results at elections and have fixed a deadline for promulgation of anti-open grazing law amongst member states. These resolutions gives a clue to the possibility of a return of the governors back to Lagos, which has now been made the secretariat of the forum. Seun Okimaloye, reporting for Channels Television News.
Ahead of the 2023 elections, there is a continued agitation for civil society organizations in the country over an alleged manipulation of sections providing for electronic transmission of results in the proposed 2021 Electoral Amendment Bill, which is currently before the National Assembly. Some civil society groups are insisting that a departure from the recommendations for electronic transmission of results will not guarantee credible elections. The former chairman of Inter-Party Advisory Council, Mr. Yunusa Tanko, is therefore asking the National Assembly not to pass a manipulated electoral bill that removes the powers to transmit election results electronically from the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Every one of us knows that for quite a while, a lot of us on this side of the aisle have been agitating for an electoral reform. And this electoral reform is not meant to only benefit those people in power at the moment, but those who aspire to be in power in the no-distant future. But it seems to us very clearly now that those who we gave our trust to amend our laws to make it more acceptable to all of us are trying to manipulate the system right even before it started. You will all agree with us that the election that took place in Edo and Ondo, where the elections were being transmitted through ZPAD by the INEC, was applauded by almost everybody in this country. And that eliminated the issue of collation center. It will reduce the issue of violence. It will give room for trust within the people, and then ensure that we, at the end of it all, have credible leaders who will govern this country. Any attempt whatsoever to submerge the will of that particular process or achievement that has been made over the years is tantamount to rigging and chaos that may ensue this country. God forbid.
Some other stories now. Nigeria loses an average of 200,000 barrels per day of crude oil to pipeline vandalism. And the country also spends about 60 billion naira annually on repairs and maintenance of vandalized ports. These revelations were given by the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, at a town hall meeting on protecting oil and gas infrastructure in Abuja. The minister asked that over 1,000 pipelines across the country have been vandalized.
Experts in the oil sector, top government officials and officers of the armed forces are here for a town hall meeting on the protection of oil and gas infrastructure in Nigeria, its challenges and solutions.
Host communities.
According to the minister, over 1,000 pipelines have been damaged across the country. He underscores the importance of protecting the facilities as well as prefer sanctions for vandals.
Sensitize communities, especially those where infrastructure are located, to be conscious of the import of such and protect them. C. Expose, arrest, and prosecute all those who engage in buying preferred infrastructure items, along with those who bring such to them to sell.
Other panelists share the minister's sentiments, especially as it impacts the nation's economy.
The implication of this is that the Niger Delta region is itself wallowing in abject poverty. Of course, the effect of oil spillage, pollution of the environment, destruction of the ecosystem, farmlands and aquatic life, and other heightened socio-economic ills could be felt even as you near the area. Even the environment on its own, as you are breathing in air, you notice that the air is different because of pollution and gas flaring.
When you are losing 20% and you are down to 4%, you know that you have made progress, but it's possible also to bring it to zero, or bring it to industry standards of less than 0.5%, which is acceptable tolerance limit in the industry. So we're working towards that. There's an ongoing process by the Chief of Defense Staff and his associated agencies, including the Department of State Service, the EFCC, and all of us, to make sure that we bring this to the tolerable level, and of course that is working.
This town hall meeting on the protection of the country's oil and gas infrastructure is one of such meetings on this subject matter, and participants are hopeful that the meeting would yield desired results and put to a possible end issues of oil theft in the country.
In part two after the break, CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele challenges administrators of Nigerian universities to learn from advanced economies' model of technology-driven development. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. 2 security operatives killed as bandits raid another private secondary school in Kaduna State. Kidnap unconfirmed number of students as over 20 others are rescued. Governors of southern states demand zoning of presidency in 2023 to the south. Set September as deadline for member states to enact anti-open grazing laws. Civil society organizations kick against alleged manipulation of sections providing for electronic transmission of results in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill by the National Assembly. And over 1,000 Afghan soldiers flee to neighboring Tajikistan following a clash with Taliban militants. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, has asked administrators of Nigerian universities to learn from some advanced economies' model of technology-driven development. According to the CBN governor, the current economic situation in Nigeria requires an accelerated adoption of knowledge. He was speaking at the 2019 convocation lecture of the University of Lagos.
Convocation lecture is an integral component of any convocation ceremony. Since its founding in 1962, this is the 51st of such ceremony in the University of Lagos, which boasts itself as Nigeria's school of first choice. The management of the institution considers the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria as fit to do justice to the topic of national development and knowledge economy in the digital space, leapfrogging SMEs into the 21st century. Mr. Godwin Emefiele underscores the need for developing academic curricula that will cater to the country's economic, social and technological challenges.
The current economic situation in Nigeria requires an accelerated adoption of knowledge to drive our developmental goals. The fast pace of growth and innovation in the digital space, along with large and growing population of vibrant youths, places Nigeria on a vantage position to harness these potentials for accelerated economic development.
The Vice-Chancellor takes the occasion to highlight some of the achievements during his tenure, which winds down in November 2022.
We are at the forefront of developing critical manpower required for building and developing our nation. Our courses and research thematic areas are focused in preparing our students for national building and solving societal challenges.
Chairman of the occasion, Pastor Tunde Bakari, lists some of the qualities that make for success, to include respect for right values, skills and quality.
God would later answer my mother's numerous prayers for me as He took me from penury to prominence. That journey from penury to prominence was guided by values infused in me by my mother, who was widowed before my 3rd birthday. Values such as hard work, integrity, contentment, intelligent and calculated risk-taking, and absolute reliance on God.
Available data shows that between 50,000 and 90,000 persons graduate from the nation's universities every year. Conversations such as this on the need to promote entrepreneurship among students may change the narrative around job creation and youth unemployment.
Going to toss it over now to Terry Kumi in Abuja for more on the news at 10. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Amarachi. The United Nations Children's Fund is soliciting the support of northern traditional leaders to combat COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy in Nigeria and reduce infections and deaths from the virus. UNICEF's country representative urges the traditional rulers in Abuja to scale up the campaign for COVID-19 vaccination in their territories, insisting that the benefits of being vaccinated far outweigh the risks.
It's the regular meeting of traditional rulers from the north to discuss how to scale up routine immunization in the region. Even though the meeting discusses how to sustain the campaign for vaccination against polio, pneumonia and other child killer diseases in the region, the National Primary Healthcare Agency also solicits the support of monarchs to combat COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy.
Your Highnesses, there have been reports of cases of vaccine hesitancy across the states. I am optimistic that your concerted support in promoting COVID-19 vaccination in and outside your domains, Nigeria will rapidly achieve the required herd immunity so that we can return back to our normal lives.
COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy in Nigeria is fueled by a number of factors, including misconceptions owing to a wide range of conspiracy theory on social media and a growing mistrust between the government and the masses. In spite of this, the country's representative of UNICEF urges traditional rulers to scale up the campaign for COVID-19 vaccination as the benefits outweighs the risks.
The vaccine prevents against severe diseases. It stops you from having to go into hospital and the dreaded use of oxygen and ventilators, as well as death.
Beyond COVID-19 vaccination, the United Nations envoy announces a breakthrough on malaria.
Over the next 2 years, there will be a malaria vaccine. If we could use COVID-19 vaccine, routine immunization, and introduce malaria vaccine to the greater benefit of all the population in Nigeria, we would have started much earlier than anybody else.
Testing and vaccination against COVID-19 is very slow in Nigeria. Data from the Ministry of Health reveals that the country has only administered slightly over 3.4 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine, with 1.16 million people fully inoculated against the virus as at Friday, July the 3rd, 2021. This represents 0.6% of the country's over 200 million population.
A coalition of civil society organizations in Abuja are calling on the National Assembly to urgently commence investigation into the COVID-19 spending in the country by instituting a public hearing with invitation to all heads of agencies and committees that handle COVID-19 finances. Speaking at a joint news conference on COVID-19 transparency and accountability in Abuja, members of the group insist that COVID-19 related contracts and procurement processes were not transparently done to guarantee proper accountability.
Nigeria is a signatory to the Open Government Partnership, which is supposed to be a game changer, in the fight against corruption. But when you don't provide access to information on procurement and contracting, then how would we even know what contract is being issued to the private sector and what services are meant to be delivered to the beneficiaries, which are people at the grassroots? 95% of corruption happens during procurement and contracting. Today, do we have access to public record on procurement and contracting? No, we don't. We want the National Assembly to host a public hearing and bring CBN, bring the Ministry of Finance, bring the Accountant General. Mind you, the Accountant General responded to our Freedom of Information letter, highlighting that they have 35 billion, they've disbursed at that time 30 billion, and they did not tell us what they would do with the 5 billion. So this is quite important for the National Assembly, particularly because their role is to provide oversight on the executive. And mind you, these expenditures, some of which have been budgeted for, released and used. So I believe our representative at the National Assembly should heed to the call of civil society and call for a public hearing. So we don't wait until after 2 or 3 years and then they start releasing all the corrupt figures. Let's get these figures now and let's put people behind bars.
The Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has commissioned an ultra-modern secretariat built by his administration for the National Union of Rivers State Students. At the ceremony in the Rivers State University, Governor Wike charges the students to avoid being used by politicians to destabilize the state.
A sight to behold would most likely be said of this edifice in the premises of the Rivers State University. No one minds that it is raining, as this crowd is here to witness the latest promise kept by the state governor, Nyesom Wike, for the students, a secretariat of their own where they can meet to discuss their affairs. Before the commissioning proper, speeches of appreciation are offered by the student body and the head of the institution.
Today's commissioning marks a milestone in the history of Rivers State, especially as the project is situated here in the Rivers State University, your alma mater.
This National Union of Rivers State Students Secretariat complex built by your administration, which is another achievement in this tenure, will give our students a sense of belonging. Yes, that there are students of Rivers State origin in the Niger Delta of South-South region of Nigeria.
Governor Wike asks not to be overly praised, as the project is something dear to his heart, being that the university is his alma mater.
Now you have had people who were governors of this state, whom are here, were all leaders of the North, but nobody thought about it. Nobody. But today, you are having it. And look at the edifice. But the point is not that. It's just for you not to see it as a money-making for your leaders. Don't use it as, okay, we have arrived. My vice president, my treasurer, you see, this conference hall, this cafeteria, ICT, you know, God has helped us, we begin to make money and put in your private pocket.
Amen.
The tour reveals more of what the building holds. The student body is now expected to show that the effort put into this building is well worth it.
When the news at 10 returns, oil prices surge as OPEC Plus countries fail to reach agreement on oil production output for a second time. That's on Business News. Join us again. Leading automobile dealer in Nigeria, Coast Cherries, has begun the delivery of heavy-duty commercial vehicles into the Nigerian market with the introduction of trucks under Ford Construction and Tractor series. The General Manager, Marketing and Corporate Communications of Coast Cherries Group, Mr. Biona Babarinde, says the company decided to venture into the heavy vehicle segment in response to the yearnings of the market for quality trucks.
From tippers to concrete mixers and garbage collectors, Ford Construction and Tractor Truck series offer a range of robust and economical automobiles that meets the need of players in construction, waste management, haulage and logistics business. There's no better place to showcase these than where stakeholders in the automobile industry are gathered. The Director General of National Automotive Design and Development Council and other guests at the Lagos Motor Fair are introduced to these heavy-duty vehicles. Julie Chinwoha, who has been driving heavy vehicles for about 15 years, puts the tipper truck to test.
If you look at the dashboard, it's easy to access. I could feel all the buttons at my fingertips, and then the gears are very, very flexible. I was thinking from the physical appearance of the truck, I was a bit taken aback, like with fear. But by the time I got in, I looked at how to drive, how to move it, and it was just moving so freely. And if I decide to rest after a long haul, there's still a bed there for you to sleep, a sleeper. It's lovely.
These debuts are outcome of the renewed partnership between Ford and Coast Cherries Group. And here's why Coast Cherries decided to go into truck business.
looking at our terrain as a country, we move goods from point A to point B. And again, constructions are going on from all over the country. And again, the government of the day from various states have also been responsible enough to give us a clean environment. So all these sum up to the fact that there is a gap of opportunity to fill.
We have about 50 to 20 trucks in the market at the moment, and 6 Mobility helped us put them in there. With 20-30% equity contribution, you can put these trucks on the road.
The Ford Charis partnership on trucks distribution also offers after-sales services and spare parts for its customers in Nigeria.
One of Nigeria's leading technology companies, Signal Alliance, has celebrated 25 years of integrating technology for corporate organizations in Nigeria. As part of its Silver Jubilee, the Executive Vice Chairman, Collins Onuegbu, announces the transition of Signal Alliance into a holding company made up of 3 subsidiaries.
After 25 years of being at the forefront of ICT integration and providing value-added technology solutions for organizations, Signal Alliance is celebrating its achievements. As the technology company marks its Silver Jubilee, it prides itself for being among the leading technology integrators for corporate organizations.
When we commenced operations in 1996 here in Lagos, there was little or no investment in the ICT industry in the country. It was still an early business. Our giant strides in the industry as one of the pioneers has helped to position our corporate brand as daring, future-thinking, resilient, innovative in a competitive and dynamic industry. We've invested in and continue to support startups, therefore contributing to the growth of the technology in Nigeria.
The company believes it is now better positioned for the future and is ready to begin a new phase with a new identity.
I'm pleased to announce to you that Signal Alliance is transitioning into a holding company made up of other subsidiaries such as Clausa, Signal Alliance Consulting, Southware, and a whole lot of affiliate companies that are out of Southware, which is our investment subsidiary.
But the 25-year-old journey has not been without challenges. Even as they say, they are now focused on dominating the technology space in Nigeria.
As Signal Alliance growing, one of the things we've noticed as challenges is that you can't grow within the space you have. 5 years ago, we came up with a program that we call DIG. We call it Diversify, Innovate and Grow. And the reason is expand the routes and expand our system in terms of what's going to happen in Nigeria. We know that the policies are not really that good for the tech industry. So one of the things we are doing is to look at all the areas of the industry.
We recognize that, look, in the technology space and technology in Nigeria, we have to play a leading role. And leading role not just in terms of providing business solutions, but also encouraging other organizations in this space to thrive. And that's why we have a holding company structure now that allows us to focus on our strengths, but also create an opportunity for us to identify opportunities, identify people who have that opportunity, identify organizations that can shape the future of technology and business support in Nigeria.
With its transition into a holding company, Signal Alliance Technology Holding, the company hopes to expand its portfolio of companies while driving innovation in the Nigerian tech industry.
And that's all from the nation's capital. Now to Anne for business news.
Thanks a lot, Terry. Let's begin business news tonight with the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries postponing its oil output policy meeting for a second time. And this is coming after several days of talks failed to resolve a dispute between Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates over proposed output curbs. In a statement, the Secretary General of OPEC, Mohammed Barkindo, says a new date for the meeting will be decided in due course. Meanwhile, oil prices traded higher today following that report, with international oil price benchmark Brent crude rising by 1.22% to $77.10 a barrel, while its contemporary U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose by 1.6% to $76.36 a barrel as at 9 p.m. local time. ADT Rasset has launched a credit risk guarantee project to enable it scale up its annual cocoa export. to 4,000 metric tons. The 1.5 billion naira facility, being sourced from Keystone Bank, enjoys the guarantee of Nigeria's incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Electoral, Aliyu Abdul Hamid, says this is one of over 748 agribusinesses enjoying the backing of the corporation.
ADT Rosset Cocoa Warehouse in Lagos is the venue of the launch of a credit risk guarantee product offered by a Nigerian incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending, NERSA.
So thank you for being here.
It is meant to minimize the risks associated with agribusiness finance and investment. It's a 1.5 billion naira facility to enable ADT Rosset, a cocoa bean sourcing and exporting company, raised its cocoa export gain to 4,000 metric tons annually.
You see, in our own case, we had nothing. We had no land, no cars, nothing. We only had our intellectual capital. But without NERSA, none of this would have been possible.
The tripartite relationship here has Keystone Bank providing the fund, and the management credits the success of the transaction to NERSA's involvement.
We let on the strength of the NERSA guarantee, but we have to ensure that we monitor to ensure that we recover our funds, that we don't have to call in the guarantee. And I can tell you for free that ADT Rosset, even with the pandemic last year, did above expectation.
NERSA is a wholly owned corporation of the CBN, capitalized to the tune of $500 million. And ADT Rosset is one of the over 748 agribusinesses currently enjoying the credit risk guarantee product.
The only way you can get private capital to go into agriculture and agribusiness is to remove the perception of risk from those investors, and that's why NERSA was established, to again help the central bank achieve a wider scale of its developmental financing objective. A single company called ADT Rosset, taking a single facility guaranteed by NERSA, actually affecting lives and livelihoods all the way down.
With the launch completed, ADT Rosset is positioned for enhanced performance and value addition and could go further, banking on the support of Keystone Bank and NERSA partnership.
Well, the color is green today as the equities market opened the trading week on a positive note, with the all-share index rising marginally by 0.02%. Laddie Williams has a summary.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. The local equities market made a 0.02% uptick from Friday's close and trotted further into the 38,000 level for the all-share index. It appears the month of July is taking a positive dimension as the first full week takes an upbeat posture with 26 gainers against 16 losers. Let's take a look at the sectoral performance. Our major drivers in Monday's session are key components from the banking, insurance, as well as the oil and gas sector, which ended in the green and countered losses from the consumer and industrial goods counter. Volume of transactions carried out today significantly high for the start of the week as over 280 million shares change hands in more than 4,000 deals. Although Fidelity had the highest volume turnover, Zenith was the major contributor in value terms. And QTix is the top gainer, up by 10%, while Red Star Express recorded the highest price loss, down 9.81%. Well, the second half of the year has started, and investors will be keeping tabs on second quarter and first half results from listed companies in coming days. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. Back to you.
And that's business news. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Anne. And still ahead of the news at 10, over 1,000 Afghan soldiers flee to neighboring Tajikistan following a clash with Taliban militants. Plus other international news from our London studio. Stay with us. Welcome back. More than 1,000 Afghan soldiers have fled into neighboring Tajikistan following their clash with Taliban militants. Violence has risen in the country as the Taliban launches more attacks and reclaims territory as foreign troops' presence in Afghanistan winds down. Simon Pusey has more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Philippine authorities have ordered an investigation into the crash of an Air Force plane that overshot a runway, killing 47 soldiers on board, 3 civilians on the ground and injuring dozens more. The Lockheed transport aircraft was carrying 96 people, mostly troops, when it overshot the runway at Jolo Airport in Sulu province. The soldiers were among reinforcements sent to combat Islamist militants. A spokesperson from the Armed Forces of the Philippines has said that they were looking for the flight data recorder to find out what caused the accident. There was no sign of any attack on the plane. The remaining section of a partially collapsed apartment block near Miami has been demolished over safety fears as a tropical storm approaches Florida. Explosive charges were used to bring down the last standing part of the Champlain Towers South, which had been evacuated. On the 24th of June, part of the block suddenly collapsed. 24 people are known to have died and 121 are still missing. The demolition operation was brought forward as Tropical Storm Elsa could reach Florida by Tuesday. Thousands of people on the outskirts of Thailand's capital have been evacuated and firefighters have battled blazes for hours after a factory explosion killed 1 rescue worker. Local disaster authorities said 70 houses were damaged and fires were still being fought 9 hours after the explosion in the early hours of Monday. The cause of the blast that wounded 29 people has yet to be determined. Rescuers in Japan have been searching for 80 people still missing 2 days after landslides tore through the seaside city of Atami. Authorities have said an elderly couple were among 23 people rescued so far. At least 3 people have been killed and dozens are still missing after a torrent of mud swept through the city southwest of Tokyo on Saturday. Japanese media showed footage of rescue workers searching for life in the remains of crushed buildings. The Ethiopian Prime Minister says the recent withdrawal of troops and officials from the northern Tigray region should not be viewed as a sign that the government side have lost the war. Abiy Ahmed said the 8-month conflict against Tigrayan rebels had weakened them. He said the national army still had the capacity to fight, but stressed the need for there to be peace in order for Ethiopia to develop. In an address to Parliament, he did not respond to the rebel TPLF's list of preconditions for there to be a bilateral ceasefire. South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma has compared his sentencing to South African rule under apartheid.
Being jailed without a trial is not different to the apartheid's detention without trial.
The insinuation is that the apartheid government, which he fought against, treated him better than the current one. It's after judges in the case against him handed him a 15-month jail sentence last week after failing to appear before a corruption inquiry in February. Pope Francis's condition is good following surgery, with his hospitalization in Rome expected to last 7 days. The 84-year-old pontiff responded well to the treatment, which was performed under general anaesthetic. That's according to the Vatican spokesperson. It is the first time Pope Francis has been admitted to hospital since his election in 2013. And finally, a 18-month-old lion, which was seized last week by Cambodian authorities, has been returned to its owner after the Prime Minister intervened. Hun Sen said the case was a special one because the owner fed the lion from a young age and loves him as a family member. He added that the lion should be kept in a cage to keep family and neighbours safe and fed properly. The owner said he was so grateful to the Prime Minister that he didn't know how to put it into words. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. The first batch of Team Nigeria's contingent to the Tokyo Olympic Games will leave for Japan tomorrow from Abuja via Ethiopia Airlines, with the flight scheduled to depart at 12:45 p.m., while the second batch will leave on Tuesday, July the 13th. Team Nigeria will compete in 9 sports at the Olympics. And that's sports news.
And the main news again. 2 security operatives were killed today as bandits raided another private secondary school in Kaduna State. They also kidnapped an unconfirmed number of students as over 20 others were rescued. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.